And hello, everyone. Welcome back to Six Elemental Interviews on my channel, the John Kingdom Saga 7847. And today we have a wonderful guest. Well, we actually have a couple guests because she's graced us with the presence of her macaw. One of my favorite indie authors, the marvelous Sienna Frost. Thank you so much for coming, Sienna. How are you doing today?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's such a pleasure. I've always loved your interviews, your reviews. Um, I haven't had time to read your book, but I've read samples, and I love your writing. It's beautiful.
Well, thank you. I'm very honored. And, as you know, I'm a huge fan of your work. Clearly, and I plan to make a list at some point of my top, 10 to 25 indie books. Yours, certainly, Obsidian Awaken would definitely fall on that list. I absolutely love it. It is just wonderful. It is brilliant writing. The character work, everything is so phenomenal. But we'll definitely be delving into your book during this conversation because again, it's one of my favorites.
Thank you
So,
so much.
so you're coming to us from where?
Bangkok, Thailand, and it's 8 p.m. here, so it's a little dark. Sorry about the lighting.
No, not at all. And thank you so much for joining us a bit later in the evening. So Bangkok, Thailand, very from I've never been, but from what I understand, a beautiful place full of culture and history, so rich and vibrant. Can you tell us a bit about not only where you live, but what's the fantasy scene like where you live and in your part of the world?
What do you mean by fantasy scene?
Like,
What?
do people there enjoy fantasy? What type of fantasy do they enjoy?
Uh,
Is fantasy a big market in terms of what people are buying on the literary end? Are there fantasy conventions or fairs there? And what's it like to be a writer there? What's it like to be a reader there if you like
that's
fantasy?
That's a really good question because that's my biggest struggle. The problem with the Thai society is we're not that big of a reader, and if you're, and most people who read these days would read manga or some web novels, and then writers here are even most of them, even professional ones, are poor as indies. I would say nobody's doing well in the bookstores, um, and mostly we read either translations of stuff from outside. The young people read manga and manhwa mostly. So all the fantasy that we get are from manga or the Western ones that got translated, something very popular. For our own culture, we're starting to have some writers that create our own world and write it in Thai and trying to make it, but they're not making it yet. That's a sad thing, but they're starting it. Since the internet has become a big thing in the past, I don't know, 20 something years. People are starting to write web novels more, Thai people, because there's no money in traditional publishing here. They actually make more money doing web novels and getting stuff from social media. So Thai writers are going in that direction. So if I were to find Thai fantasy, I would have to look on the web novel sites. I go to bookstores. It's mostly translated stuff from everywhere else in the world. So it's pretty much the same thing that you're getting, I think, in America.
Wow, that's incredible. And I just want to follow up on that, but I'm quickly going to put up some comments here. So we have Emmy. Hey, Emmy, thanks so much for joining us. Welcome, afternoon from the UK. Appreciate it. And we have one of the best reviewers out there in our space, the wonderful Esme Rosaline. Esme, thanks so much
Hi.
for joining us.
Hi.
Esme is amazing. Her reviews are simply phenomenal. Check her out. The Goodreads and Grimdark magazine, and she's just a wonderful person. So, and then we have an amazing author, the awesome JCM Byrne. Good morning. Hey, GCM.
Good evening from here.
Thanks for dropping by. Check out JCM's books. I still need to get to them. Very popular, really exciting fantasy that he writes. So check out JCM. And another wonderful booktuber, the awesome Matt on Books. He says, hi, Sienna.
Oh, hi.
Yeah,
Hi, hello. We talked a few times. He helped me a lot on my cover, so it's really nice to have him here too.
Matt is amazing. I think he does the Sunday pub that may be on today. So if it is, check out Matt and his YouTube channel. He is fantastic. And Esme says, "Ooh, the parrot."
The parrot. And they're sleeping together right now. Do you see the kitty?
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
That's so cute.
This is Pichu. Pichu was adopted the kitten by now, so they're always together right, like that. They sleep together all the time too. It's really sweet. Yeah.
That's so cute. And Matt says Sienna has a pet macaw. Author, pirate confirmed.
Finally, I'm a proper fantasy writer. I have a fantasy animal.
Let's see. Titan Bolero. Hey everyone. Hey. Thanks so much for coming and for joining us. And Esme says, way too kind. No, Esme, all the truth. You are amazing. Way too kind as always. And then Emmy says hi to everyone. And JCM notes, videos of that bird and kitten playing are the highlight of my Instagram lately. And Matt adds, she just needs an eye patch and a peg leg to be a pirate.
True. I'm gonna do that for book 2 release. Remind me.
And then Esme adds, came for the book context, stayed for the cute parrot. And he says, JCM, I know they're so cute. So yeah, that's all. Those are awesome. We love animal companions, so we'll never complain about seeing more of those. So I want to follow up on what you were mentioning about the scene there, Sienna. So based on all you said, how did you get into writing beautiful, epic, dark fantasy? And so now that you are, and certainly you've certainly enjoyed a certain amount of success and an audience with doing it. We know you're an indie author. We know how tough. I'm one of those people who I know how difficult that is to be successful, and clearly you have been. Almost 200 reviews on Goodreads and a very high average don't lie to how much people believe you're fabulous authors. So how did you get? So based on what you said about Thai and the culture, how did you get into epic fantasy, and what's it like with you now? How are you making out as a writer? How are you feeling about it? Can you let us know about that?
It's difficult to link to my Thainess because I left home when I was about 14. And I was in a boarding school in New Zealand for 2-3 years before I moved to the UK. I stayed there for a while, a year or two, and then I moved to the US. I graduated from the US. I'm a computer science major, so I got my bachelor's degree there. So there is this big decade long of time where I'm not here. I wasn't here. And during those times, all I could get my hands on were English language novels. So I started reading, but I've had stories since where I started drawing my own manga. Actually, I'm into manga a lot. I've read thousands. That's the first thing I got, because that's like the Thai society that I told you about, because we all read mangas. We don't have anything else to read. It's just manga. So before I went to New Zealand, all I had was manga. All I could express in terms of stories was I had to learn how to draw. And so for a while, I was trying to draw. I didn't quite succeed at the level where I wanted to succeed. And so I left sometime in the middle of that struggle of trying to express my stories in some ways. And then I went to New Zealand. I had to read books for high school, and then I discovered I read my first novel because I was forced to. I discovered, hey, this is another way for me to express my stories, and it's easier than drawing. And so I tried. Since then, I've been writing. Back then there was no internet. I don't think I had a computer even. We were handwriting on books, and I was lonely. I was in a boarding school all by myself. My parents didn't move with me. It was just me alone, 14-year-old in a different country. Yeah. So that's how I started writing, and it was just to keep me company. I needed imaginary friends, and I just kept going that way. So I've been writing for 30 years probably, and I just published this one because I feel like it has enough substance. I'm ready also, but it also has been on the web, on Wattpad for a while, and I got people loved it. People say I should publish. They want, mainly because they want it in a book format. Otherwise, they would have to read chapters by chapters. And it was like, can we have this published, please? And so, yeah, sure. I wasn't even thinking about it. So it was a really quick decision of finishing it. And people say, well, you should query. And so I finished it. I queried for a while. I got impatient. I was like, let's just go indie and just publish this, because I didn't really care. I've never wanted to be a writer. I've just been writing. And it has always been my readers who wanted me to be a writer and to try and go for it. So I was like, I'm obedient to my fans. Whatever they say, I do it. I'm here to serve. But yeah, so that's been my story. It's a struggle now. It wasn't a struggle for me before when I began, because I didn't really expect too much, but I'm that kind of person where if I do something, I hate to fail. And so now it's pretty much me trying to get this to get to sell well, because I don't want to fail. It's basically just that, and it stresses me out a lot. So that's like my biggest struggle. It's just telling myself that it's okay. If I didn't need to be a professional writer, that it should be okay for it to go wherever it goes. However far it gets, it should be fine. But there is just like I was a straight A student, like through and through, and I just can't live with like releasing something and it doesn't sell, if you know what I mean. It's a bad habit.
I would argue that you are a success, and you've definitely done really well, and you have a following. I'm one of those people definitely that has become a big fan. And I'm sorry, maybe before I dive back in, I'm going to quickly put up some comments. Oh, hi Anna. Brookswood coming from the Netherlands. Hello, thank you so much for joining us, Anna. We really appreciate it. So welcome. And Esme notes, eternally grateful that you eventually took the lead to publish and you share your story with us. I agree. Thank you for sharing the pain. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll definitely.
I think at this point, it's I really enjoy the publishing journey. If I just focus on what I have and the fans I have, the readers I have. The Discord channel that just opened from this group of fans that helped me. I was talking to my fans a lot, and that's the dream come true for me, and it actually pulled me out of a very bad place, because but after you've released book 1 for so long, and there's a big gap between 1 and 2, the sales go down, and I started to feel bad, and then they reminded me that. I have fans still. I have readers who are still waiting here, and that's enough. It should be enough for me, especially when my goal has never been being Stephen King's or something. But yeah, so that really put my focus back together. Like, I'm happy in this space. I'm happy just hanging out with a handful of people who know my characters, who talk to me about my characters. They make them feel real, and I think that's a world that I think that was worth the pain of publishing, really, because I would never have that if I didn't, if I hadn't made that step.
Yeah,
so thank you.
That's it. That's incredible. And again, Sienna's links are below. But as you've heard, she has a Discord channel. So if that's something as a fan of hers you're interested in being a part of, make sure you contact her about being a member of her Discord. I'm just going to quickly put up another comment. The wonderful John A. Douglas, brilliant booktuber and author. Check out John's book and his channel, of course. Thanks so much, John, for always coming out to support. We really appreciate it. And I think John has a comment for you, Sienna, directly regarding, I know you mentioned that, okay, it's been a while since you published your first book. However, he notes, very important, quality over quantity. And I think we can definitely attest to the quality of your books in every capacity. Sienna, you mentioned that you are an artist as well in terms of illustration and drawing. This book is fabulously illustrated, and it's just beautiful. Like I don't know if I can get on camera some of the wonderful illustrations. Like, just the artwork in general is just fantastic. Did you do this all yourself? In addition to writing it, did you illustrate it yourself?
No. Those are I chose the images that fits, and those are royalty-free images that I bought for the purpose. I would have loved to. I think there's one of my drawing at the back, and that's of Hashim. That's mine, but I didn't have time outside of writing to be drawing. I could do some, but I didn't have time. But this one, this is mine. Yeah, and I picked up this one because this one is the edition of Obsidian that a fan sent me. She made this into silk covered, and I was so happy to see that those illustrations are she colored these in as well. So you see some. Let me like, this is like gold. Yeah, and so we see some colors in there. So all these have been used. That's one thing. Like, I did the formatting. I wanted to give this book to my Wattpad readers because they wanted paperback, and I just didn't want to give them the exact same thing as the digital, because you're paying a lot more for paperback, and I feel like I owe my readers more than that. So that's the reason why I put this into InDesign. I wanted to pick all the illustrations that work for it, and so like this, it's really neat. And the work that went into this just like brought me to tears, and this is like a dream come true for any author. I think this beats being on the bestseller list for me. Yeah, and this was sent to me all the way from the US as well. So yeah,
that is incredible.
I into this.
I totally agree with Esme that this is gorgeous. I mean, that for someone, I mean, to create something like that because they love your work, like, that looks as good. I mean, I don't have any, but as what I've seen online, any broken binding special edition, like, it looks like it's got sprayed edges. Like, that's miraculous, right? That someone would do that because they're such a fan and they send it to you. That's a real homage to your work. And again, this
is real Obsidian.
What?
This is the Obsidian arrowhead. This is real Obsidian. The bookmark. She made this. It's just really amazing. But that's something that I feel that keeps making me feel like I want to put more into this, because some people, even if they're just 1 or 2 or 5, appreciate it. It was worth the effort.
Yeah, that's
This
it.
is worth hours and hours of formatting it. So I'm trying to do that for book 2 as well, which is
Oh,
why everything comes out later than I really wanted to, but I don't want to rush it. I feel like this is also my life's masterpiece. I can tell you that it's the only book that I want to publish. I have more series, that I'm never going to share, but this one is for the world. I want to die with this. So
yeah.
I'm putting everything into it. So it's not fast because I want everything to be right.
No, that is incredible. And again, Emmy agrees, says, look at that book. Wow, it is awesome. I agree. John mentions, yeah, again, that's a quality fan. That is
Absolutely.
again, for I think, like you said, that's a dream come true for most authors, especially indie authors, to have someone care that much about the work and go to all that effort. That is simply incredible. Um, Ida mentions that loves your character artwork and helped her connect with them, and that, yep, I agree. That's definitely true. I'm just going to quickly put this comment as well from the wonderful Jay Bird, who I met yesterday at a book signing in Barrie. Hey, Jay Bird, thanks so much for stopping by. An awesome fella. He's just amazing, just a wonderful person, very inspirational. Fabulous, fabulous character. His a person of character, and says he'll pick up this book today, which is Obsidian Awakening.
Oh,
PL recognition, never miss. Enjoyed the interview so far, and it was great to meet you in person yesterday. Fabulous to meet you as well, my friend. It was awesome, and believe me, you will love Obsidian Awakening, Jay Bird. It is an
hope
amazing
so.
book. So now Esme puts up a question for you. Are you planning on producing book 2 in the same way then?
Absolutely. I'm going to do even more for book 2. I think the paperback itself will be released similarly, with illustrations that I pick. I'm trying to save the hardback for something more. That's why we don't have the hardcover for the first book either. So I've been contacting some artists, a few artists, to see that works and their rates and everything, because hardcovers, I feel like that's a lot of money, and I'm definitely not going to release something that's an exact copy of a paperback for people who pay that much. So I want to change the cover. I want to change the inside. I want some real nice illustrations for it. It's gonna take me a while, but I promise it's gonna be something great that is done by that I control all aspects of it. So it will be truly my production, even though I would commission some artists for that. But I'm still looking for the right artist, and the funding as well. So I'm hoping that maybe when book 2 releases, I can sell some and keep some. I'm putting all my profits into doing this and not keeping anything. Actually, that's what I hope to do. Yeah, because I really want a really nice hard copy. It's really bad for business in a way, because people say you should have all 3 formats, and having people wait is not a good marketing strategy. But I'm not ready, and I don't want to release anything, when I'm not ready, especially a collector's edition hardcover. So
I
yeah, I've got big plans, and we have another big plan that's coming, that I'm gonna have. I don't know when, but I'm gonna do this before I die for sure, which is the world guide of Obsidian, that I really want to do. A coffee table book kind of thing, all color, not too long, and we're gonna do a world guide where the world is explained, the characters are explained, and because all of the places that I've written that inspired me to write Obsidian are from my travel experience. I've been traveling for 20, 30
oh,
years,
wow.
47 countries at this point. I'm also an amateur photographer, so I have a lot of photos from those places that you will see how they match the descriptions in the book. So I really want to do that, which is to showcase the inspirations, the real photos from our world. And I really want to show people that these places actually exist. The white desert exists in Egypt, the black as well. And there's the red desert in Petra in Jordan, which I also have been. And they're just gorgeous. And I feel like the real world beats fantasy sometimes, most of the time actually. And I want to link that to the book. So that is a project that I'm thinking of doing for sure in the future, because I want that coffee book. That's just it.
Well, I want it too, so I'll be buying that, right away. Like, oh my gosh, that sounds incredible. Having a companion book like that, and and again, I know we will eventually get to speaking about your book specifically, but just a quick comment for me, just how lush the descriptions are. You're so fabulous in terms of the exposition and how you paint the scene of these places, and I can visualize them in my mind. And clearly, with your travel, with the amount of traveling you've done, like these are sort of inspired by real places that a lot of us, I certainly haven't been to, but I think you've definitely brought those places to life. But that takes a skilled artist, right? It's not just enough that you've been there. It's the fact that you're able to convey that to the reader. So that's definitely a skill. So kudos to you on that. Magically said, "Yep, may not be bestseller, but you are crazy fans, crazy in a good way, obviously." Damn, yeah, that is, yeah. Yeah, they are amazing. And Emmy just comments quickly that, yep, that should be bestseller. In my mind, it is. Again, it's one of my favorite indie books ever. And again, all the reviews and all the positive comments on Goodreads, that they don't lie. And that's a lot of reviews. Especially because you have one book out, and it seems very well reviewed and meeting with a lot of kudos and acknowledgments. And Esme says, yep, truth. And she also notes, love to hear it. I already know the book 2 is going to be so worth the wait. I completely agree. A dedication to the craft and the product. And you earn our respect, Sienna, by not wanting to rush and by wanting to wait until you're ready and you can produce the best quality product possible to deliver to the people like me who love your work and are more than willing to wait for it, because we know it's going to be exceptional. So I think that's a plus. No pressure. I agree, Esme. We'll be here to support you whenever we can, whenever you are fully ready.
Well,
right?
It won't be long now, because before I wanted to release this last year because I felt like I could finish it, but like I said, when I write and I feel like this is not it, I don't move on. I don't move on at all from that chapter. I can stop on a chapter for like 3 months until I feel like, okay, this is the right story. This is the true story coming out from them. So that's the part that delayed it until now. It should have been done last year. I had time. I just didn't have that feeling that this is it. And every chapter I write for this book has to end with that this is it feeling. That's very important to me. So yeah, but right now it's done. It's been sent to my editors. I've got most of it back. So we're at the stage where I'm just moving commas around. So that's all you're waiting for. And also the formatting, which I have a few fans helping me with formatting. I also have to shout out because apart from this, the fan who sent me the book, Amy, who is also here, is the one helping me with my website. She is coding everything. She's handling it for me. She's helping me take all that work so I can write. So thanks to her, so I have amazing readers. Thank you.
That is amazing. I'm quickly, before I go back to Emmy, just gonna note, every time Mr. Tripp picks up that book, My Heartbeat Rises, I'm gonna get that heartbeat going again. Tyden, thanks again so much for coming out. But this is a book you need to go out and get if you don't have it already. Trust me, you will not be disappointed. So sorry, not sorry to get your heart racing and give you some FOMO about seeing this, because this is a book you're going to definitely want to add your.
And that comment
Yeah.
is from my first reader on Wattpad.
So Titan's
Going
read
by
your
the
book.
name Titan Valero, he's been my reader for years. I don't know how many years, 5, 6,
Oh
7, I'm
wow.
not sure. Since I was still editing my opening. He's seen probably 20 openings that I made before I queried. So that's he's a really long time fan and a huge support who is also helping me with the release of book 2 as well in terms of formatting and everything that I need.
Well, that's amazing. Well, shout
Another
out to
amazing.
Titan. Shout out to Titan. Kudos to you, sir, for supporting a wonderful author, and thanks for all you do. Because obviously, she is amazing and her work is fabulous. So, thanks for supporting her. And just quickly back to Emmy. She notes, yep, she's saying to Esme that going above beyond, you don't get this with traditional publishing. And I have to concur, especially in Emmy. Shout out to you for all you're doing to make Sienna's work fabulous. So and congratulations on that. You're part of making it happen, and I think that's really special. Yeah, and Sienna, you noted that you had pitched before to agents to potentially get your book to be published. While that didn't go that way, obviously, clearly you've been successful going the indie route. Is that something that's closed off to you? Do you think you'd ever try the traditional route? Is that something you're even interested in more? How do you feel about that aspect?
I'm I'm open at this point. I'm open. I'm a businesswoman, so I have a price for everything I can say. But I also have a line. So as long as that line stays, I'm open to discussing, traditional publishing. Uh, but at this point, I think the only way that's gonna happen, because I'm not gonna query another book in my life. I'm not gonna publish another one. This is gonna be a long journey of all things Obsidian, whether it's another standalone or a spin-off or whatever. So the only way that's gonna happen is, I think, it's probably when my Obsidian as an indie book gets popular enough that someone wants to pick it up, and then I will consider. But at that point, I feel like I would have more control now because they're asking, not me. Um, because I'm definitely not going to change anything. I can't work on a schedule. If I need to take 5 years, I'm going to take 5 years. Or it's not going to come out. I want rush, and that's my line. So, yeah, I am. But the only way that's going to happen is that I sell so many copies, probably. At one point. But yeah, so I don't think too much about that. I enjoy talking to my fans. I love my new community little Discord channel that I get to talk to people. That's we're just gonna keep doing that until something happens, probably.
Oh, and that sounds amazing. And again, we're your fans, such as I, are more than willing to wait and have you take your time and do things the way you want to do them, at the pace you want to do them, and do it quality. And we have no doubts that anything you do will be quality, and it will happen when the time is right, and not before then. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just want to put it quickly up that as I am, as we know, she's counting down the days. Gotta get on my book one reread ASAP before you release book 2. Sienna. So
That is, it helps. I've been telling people that as well, because I've been releasing chapters, unedited chapters on Wattpad, and a lot of book 2 goes back to book 1 and picks up what wasn't explained in book 1. So a lot of people were reading that and going back and forth, like, oh, that's why. It's the problem I have with book 1 with some readers is that I think a lot of readers are used to series that end in each book or wrap up in each book, and then on the next book it's another quest, and those books will not come back to revisit. I'm writing more of a C-drama kind of series, which it's all connected. So I've had comments where people think like, oh, I introduced this character, but it's never picked up. It was this is the plot hole because it was never explained, but the fact is I'm explaining it in book 2, book 3, maybe book 5. It's kept a secret for a reason. And yeah, so a lot of book 2 will have quotes from book 1 which will be further explained. And a lot of Wattpad readers are doing that. They're like, oh, this is why this is so impressive, because I have some of the most careful readers of all, because they would pick up just one word then and not tell me about it, and then they're reading book 2 and, oh, this is why you use this word in book 1, and I'm like, you remember? I was so happy, because that's the reason why each chapter takes so long, because I'm picking some of the words that I pick have meanings in the future. It has a backstory to that. So when I start writing that backstory, you go back and read it and it would make sense. And the most careful of readers enjoy that a lot, because they feel like they picked that up the first time and they were curious, and now, yes, I'm right. I like that feeling personally when I read books, so I that's what I also want to do. And that's an extra thing for people who read, though sometimes who read the second time. I have the most amazing thing is that book 1 has been reread so much by so many people, and they discover something they missed in the first go, which is important stuff that you will see explained in book 2. Like the biggest explanation is on the very first paragraph of book 1 itself, actually. Yeah, so you won't understand what that paragraph really means until you read all of book 2 and you go, oh. So yeah, rereading book 1 helps.
And I love that. And I love that the fact that you have planned you're going to write pretty well exclusively in this universe for the next little while. I love immersive books and series and universes where you stay there and you get to learn all the intricacies and the nuances, and the author takes their time, whether it's a Malazan or name your series that you love, that you can lose yourself for many books at a time, and the payoffs may not come till 2, 3, 4 books later. And that's exactly the kind of series that I know that I crave and many people crave. So that, of course, makes me immensely excited to hear that. And I'm sure all your fans, oh, there she goes, taking flight. So many friends. I feel the same way. I'm quickly going to put a comment here from the wonderful Timothy Wolf, also a brilliant author himself and friend of the channel. Thanks so much, Timothy, for showing up. Check out Timothy's books. He is as well a brilliant author, and I have to catch up with his books. Emmy just notes a thank you to Sienna. She says, thank you. That book 2 is going to be brilliant. We're absolutely sure that it is. Tyler just quickly want to know, I think you sort of explained it already, Sienna, but when book 2 can be expected. I know you said it's in the editing stages, but I guess he's looking for
what can we expect?
What can you expect? I apologize. What can you expect? I didn't read that question properly.
This book, well, the first book is mostly Hashim's book. It's mostly his point of view. The second book is more of Lasura's book. So you'll see Lasura in so many chapters. It's his book now, and he's hilarious. I mean, book 2, I've been accused of turning this into a comedy now, because, well, Lasura's voice is funny. He's always that, bitter mom. He complains a lot, and he's sarcastic, and he's funny. So it's really enjoyable to be writing him and see him grow, and then you see people around him grow as well. There's a lot. I should say this because you've seen the cover of book 2 with Retribution as the title. That is going to be changed to Revelation, because after when I was done, I realized that that title is more suitable for it, because this book reveals a lot of everybody's past and true intentions. So this is Revelation. You'll see a lot more of who Dio Diamara is, his backstory. You still won't know who he is, but you'll see more of him. You'll see exactly where Muradi was coming from that chapter. There's a lot of revelation on him, on his story. Yeah, and Hashim's past has come back to really bite him in the ass. So yeah, so you see a lot of unearthing of backstories of all these important characters, which explains why they are the way they are, and also dictates what they do next as well. So that's book 2, which is why the name has been changed to Revelation. Sorry about that.
So that's very interesting. That's very interesting. The fact you changed the name based on that, what you just said. And I apologize, Titan, for originally reading out your question incorrectly. It was what can you expect from book 2, which Sienna has provided, and that's a brilliant question. Wow. Okay, now I'm really intrigued, because I think you realize Dio's one of my. I love characters that they are mysterious. We don't quite know what exactly their agenda is. We don't know quite their entire backstory. We know they're going to play a prominent role. Like, I love characters like that keep me guessing, and that are very ambiguous in terms of their motivations and the morality. Those are characters that I absolutely love. So you can imagine I can't wait to find out more about.
He's a gem to write, and there's this quote in book 2 that's a sort of a sneak preview about him, that he's playing the game at God level. So if you see all these other characters as chess pieces on a board, and the gods and fate is has been moving them, and that's what Dio says. He plays the game at God level.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to see just how capable he is in terms of playing the game. So, as you know, it sounds very Game of Thrones-esque politics. So quickly, both Timothy and Esme, they're loving seeing the birds in the background and all the animals. They're giving thumbs up for that.
So this is Pichu. She can't fly yet, so this is my new girl that I just got. The Maju is still in his aviary because he will just scream when we talk. Doesn't like he has to be the only one in the room who talks.
Okay.
He can't.
Okay. He's the boss. I get it. Titan's loving seeing the animals as well. So, okay. So now finally, I want to try and loop back around to specifics about this wonderful book. As I said, one of my definitely would be in my top 25 indie books of all time. It is absolutely phenomenal in every way, and I think the many people who have written reviews about this book feel the same way, that it is absolutely fabulous. So, what inspired you to write this book? What made you write this book the way you did? Can you tell us a bit about it in your own words, please?
Mongolia. I went on a trip to Mongolia years ago. I was there. We were staying. It was a horseback trip where we were traveling on horseback for the entire trip, and did a huge circle of Mongolia, staying with nomads from Ge to Ge. And I had a chance to really taste the nomadic life, living on the steppes with no electricity, no plumbing, nothing. It was just real nomadic life, and that was just like the 4 of us. and that was 21 days. I was there for 3 weeks. Like I didn't get showers for 8 days at a time, and I'm from Bangkok, if you know what I mean. And that was a huge change. And we were there during the Dam Festival as well, which is the festival where they do all kinds of competitions. They were doing horseback riding, um, wrestling, and other warrior sports, like everything. That was the summer season for them. So we got to see that competition as well. And I came home, and that changed my life. If you remember the first chapter, that I talked a lot about freedom, um, and prosperity and safety, that you would have to sacrifice some safety if you want that much freedom. So what happened is if you're a nomad, uh, your kids get sick in the middle of the steps, you're not gonna get a doctor anywhere closer than an 8-hour horseback ride, because there's no road, there's nothing, there's no one, not even a phone signal. So there's no safety, no protection, but they are free. I've never felt real freedom before in my life until I was staying with the nomads. And that was the most, despite it being really rough because it was cold, it has no electricity, I had to do my business in a hole in the ground. They dug out a hole, and I actually sometimes I had to ride a horse to go to the toilet because it was so, they have to do it so far away, so or else it smells. But I had the most relaxing time I had. That was the calmest place I've ever been in. In the end, I didn't want to leave. I was like, I can live like this. It got to the point where I feel like I don't have to leave. I don't have to go home. I can live like this. And I will not have a boss. I don't have to hire anybody. They don't have all that. They can do the work whenever they want to. And there's this pride that you see in all of the nomads. They stand really tall. Like, I've been around a lot of billionaires and millionaires in the city, and they don't stand that tall. They're not that proud. And these people have nothing. They don't have nothing they can't pack on the back of their car, where the yacht can carry. And I thought that was amazing. And I feel like I got to see real human spirit that can survive that kind of environment and be proud of it at the same time. And I tasted freedom, and that went into the book. I feel like I came back. I feel like I have to share this experience with the world. I have to share this view, especially for city dwellers like me, that, the point of view that if you live in the city, yes, you have all these technology, you have this comfort, you have this safety, but you are behind a fence. And I don't think either, choosing either is wrong. It's just that there is a choice, and there is another way of life that I want to share. And that's why I also wanted to write this book from two perspectives. Equally, I don't want one. I'm not trying to say that the white desert is good and the black is bad. I feel like there can be good people and bad people from both sides, which is what you always see in my book, because they're equally horrible and they're equally good. And everyone is just struggling. We're all just trying to survive based on the choices that we make. And all those choices are valid. Muradi is right sometimes about, Sahara's people, the white desert people, killing each other all the time just because they can. And she is also right. It's because they have the right to kill. They're killing. They're fighting all the time, but they're not living behind fences. They don't have to worry about all these laws. They don't have to stay here. They can go anywhere. And I feel like that's really important to see it from both sides, and to just open up people's perspective to different kinds of life. So just so that when you have to be in the situation where you have to live like the nomads, or if you're broke tomorrow and you have to live very poorly, then there is a mindset that will get you through that. I've been both. I've been bankrupted too. I grew up privileged. I've been bankrupt because I'm a businesswoman. There have been times when my business failed and I had to sleep on the floor of my office because I didn't have anywhere else to sleep for years. And yeah, I feel like when life gets hard, it helps to have that kind of spirit, to have that kind of point of view to get you going again, which I think has been lost in this era where we focus so much on success, on career success, on money, on having all these luxuries. And you feel ashamed that if you don't have those things, you feel like you're a failure, which that's not it. I mean, stay with the nomads for 2 weeks or maybe 10 days, and you'll come back and understand that all this, you can live very happily without all these things, even though your life is gonna be still hard. But it doesn't have to make you want to end your life or something like that. So I feel like I'm a lot happier. I came back and I could be happy in every situation I'm in, except when I'm querying. I hate that. I hate begging. I'm too much of a nomad now. I hate begging. But yeah, and I think that's a very important lesson that I would like to share. And this book has been called Dark or Grim Dark because of that. I want to put these characters in the setting that makes life really hard for them. It feels like there's no way out for any of them. And then show you how they do it, how they go through another day, how they get through that, even though they're not, the problem is still there. But we were all born with the spirit to make it another day, even though the problem is still there. And I feel like that's an important message for anyone who's struggling at life. And it's the great thing is that most of my fans are people who are broken, and they needed that. So I feel like it's really worth the pain of publishing, because I can tell. I talk to my readers a lot, and most of my readers have been broken. Most of my fans, people who love the book, and it's like when people who don't feel so much when they read are mostly people who are happy, and they have, I would say, yet to be broken. And they feel like this is too dark. I don't want to hear this. I don't want to see this. But I feel like someone who really has been abused, someone who really has it bad, they find value in it. They relate to the characters, and that I think that's the reason why I have some of the most dedicated fans, because they feel something, they relate to these characters a lot. And then there are people who don't relate at all because they haven't been through all these experiences, which is really great for them. I'm happy for them. But this book is about broken people. It's been written for broken people, hopefully, to share my experience of having overcome those times, or having seen people overcome those times and the way they do it, to help. And that's also why I published. It's an important message.
Wow, it certainly is, and that's very profound. Just listening to why you wrote the book, Sienna, and those insights. We're grateful for them. I mean, very, very profound, very, very moving. What you just described, and very thought provoking, and given me a lot of food for thought. And also too that, thank you so much for sharing your experiences in terms of and it's not always easy to share, having been through tough times, and I certainly understand what tough times are all about, and like you having been while having tough times, also feel like you've had the pinnacle of success and the pinnacle of material things, at least in context, for yourself, and just but I think as well, you said some really important things, but I think there are readers who, I think a lot of us, some of us would even question why we're so attracted to darker books. And sometimes I know I've talked to some of my friends, it's like, why do I love to read this? Is there something wrong with me that, that I want to read about this pain and this trauma and whatever? And for some people, I think I agree with you. It's totally cathartic because they've also gone through various traumas, and it's a way of dealing with it in a certain space. But then there's people who perhaps they themselves believe they haven't gone through that sort of trauma, and yet they're drawn to the darker, the darker type fantasy, which I'm clear you consider your fantasy to be, which I would consider to be, but dark but brilliant, dark but brilliant. But when I think about books like yours, and whether it's the R. Scott Backers or the Malazans, you name your fantasy, your if you want to call it grimdark, if you want to call it dark, however you want to categorize it. I think one of the things that I love about your books is that you nailed it when you said, they're people who are people. They're not truly good. They're not truly evil. They're people. There's an absence, and I wrote this even in my review. For me, there's an absence of a true hero or heroine in the book, and there's nothing wrong. Like, for me, that was great. That wasn't that wasn't an issue. I love highly flawed, complex characters, and these characters, they peddle in revenge and treachery. They have naked ambition. They have lust, and their motivations are always complex. But one thing I'll say as well about these characters, a lot of times those motivations aren't always self-serving either. And a lot of these characters have this unique, mind you, sometimes it's twisted code of honor, but a lot of them will also gladly sacrifice themselves for a greater good, or a person they care about, or a larger group. And it's not just about accomplishing their own mission, but this makes them so fascinating and unpredictable. And they are relentless, a lot of them. But I think you write them so adeptly that it makes them so believable, and you are uncompromising and brilliant in the way you depict the harsher side of human nature, right? And that's, I think, where the darkness really comes in. And there's some really challenging themes, and I wanted to ask you, I know there's more questions and comments to go, and I will get to them eventually, but while we're specifically talking about the book, I wanted to ask you, you deal with some pretty heavy themes here, okay? Torture, hatred, enslavement, there's prejudice, rape, murder, sexual abuse of children, forced prostitution, genocide. This is as beautiful as the world is, it's also brutal, right? And you talked a bit about that contrast in our own world, the pursuit of material things, and how far you can fall, in this more, a capitalist or type of society, versus living in the steppes, with a nomadic tribe, and have to deal with more of the physical harshness of reality in a brutal world where wild animals can kill you, and the elements can kill you, but still, there's also beauty and there's freedom, but in this book, you dealt with some of these really tough themes unflinchingly. Now, I know you wrote it for a reason, but was it hard to write about them? Was it hard for you to write about them? And although your readers have obviously, clearly, like you said, you've written for readers who have had trauma in their life. What about the people that bounce off your book because of that?
Were there people that bounced off my book because of that?
Have there been? Yeah. So have there been? Yeah.
Actually, the most controversial chapter of it was that scene with the teenage, and I got attacked a lot for that scene by some readers who didn't like it. And it feels like they say there was no point. But in my DMs, I've got a lot of readers who reached out to me and who are actually rape victims, and they reached out to me and said to thank me for writing that scene the way I did, because they had a hard time facing it before, and that it was important for them to face it, but face it also in a way that they can come out of it, because the character, I don't want to spoil it for people who didn't read, but the character in question did find a way to come out of it broken. She is still very much broken, and you will see that a lot in book 2 as well. It's going to go on. Rape is not something that you just get over, but it can, but you're gonna have to find a way to live with it. And she does. And that's what those people were, those women were telling me, that it helped them a lot to face it in that way, the way I wrote it, and to see that this character can come out of it without me turning it into something. I think this is what they said that bothers them a lot, because they see too many characters just come out of it just like that. They feel horrible about it for maybe a chapter, and then maybe the guy, the love interest comes in and help them, and then they forget about it. That doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. It keeps going, and there is always a struggle of how do you live with that when it comes back, when the memory comes back, when it strikes you again. It's always going to come back and strike, but you have to find the strength to deal with that. And that is what people feel that I could give them, and I could help them, face that moment again and then do something about it, instead of trying to ignore that it never happened, which is, in the long run, it doesn't help. So that was really great to hear, and that's why I decided, I won't feel bad about comments that say that scene was unnecessary. Well, I have evidence that it was very necessary for, I don't know, maybe these 5 people who have been there and they've bounced back, and they thanked me for it. So it was important for them. And I would prioritize that over people who have never been through that and feel like it was unnecessary. I have to prioritize that. So yeah, that have been, that's also why I'm still doing this. If you follow my Twitter, if you're my readers, you always, every week or so, you will see me complain. It's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to take my book off. There's always that feeling like, I love this book so much. I'll be frank about it. I don't want to read bad reviews. This is my world. This is my safe space. This is, this is my baby. I don't need money from it that bad. So if it weren't for the fans who are still telling me that I have to do this and they're benefiting from it, they love it, it helps them, I would have taken this book off the internet with, from the first, I don't know, 2-star review. Probably just like, nope, I'm not sharing anymore. This is mine. Yeah. But so don't thank me. Thank all the readers who are telling me, Faye, Sienna, you have to keep doing this. Yeah.
And that is amazing. And again, I thank you as one of your fans and your readers for writing this book. It is it's just the kind of book that is compelling for me. And then when I read, obviously so many people clearly feel the same. I'm just putting up some of the comments here that Titan says we're going to want 20 books, not just a trilogy. I agree. Again, certainly enjoy reading for the rest of my life of, the world of Obsidian, which would be fabulous. Um, Titan also knows, yes, that lack of hero villain that I refer to is the very thing that I've been looking for in a story. There's nothing black and white in this world. And that, I think, makes the world realistic and, again, compelling and something that we all want to read about. Um, Emmy says, exactly the ambiguous nature of who is good and bad mimics real life. And the realism and the grittiness of fantasy world is something that I personally crave as a reader and that I try to write as a writer. So, yeah, I totally agree, Emmy. I appreciate that. And then Emmy also notes, childhood harm lasts a lifetime and usually the most unlikely triggers. And I would agree with that. Sadly, especially with my experience in law enforcement and seeing that happen, that yes, I definitely concur with that comment. Um, and there's a question here burning from Zero Zaku. We will return to it. I'm just gonna bookmark it here so that it's even though we're gonna talk some more about specifically Obsidian Awakening, that this is that he asked this. Thank you, Zero Zaku, again for coming by, friend of the channel. We will get your question. Thanks so much for asking. We'll get to that. There's just a few more things I want to delve into regarding specifically the book with Sienna, but we will get to your question. And thanks for asking. So Sienna, this book is one thing that people who know me and know what all the elements I love about books. Prose is huge for me. Prose is my gateway into any book. It is a definite important element for me to enjoy a book. Your prose is simply incredible. It had me yearning for more. Um, I think for me, and if you'll indulge me, I'm going to because I have the book. I'm going to read quickly from the opening words of the book, which right away the prose was just again just stellar, just grabbed me, and it says, one moonless night under the star-stained, crushing sky of the desert, where the snow-capped peaks of the Vilhariti drew an unconvincing line between the realms of gods and men. Fate brought together one man and one woman from opposite sides of the war and bestowed upon them the first chance to bring peace to the peninsula. It was also on this night, in the tent of stumbling shadows and raining stars, when peace was offered, declined, and set on fire by the woman and the man, and the secret wager that began the greatest war between the black and white desert was made. Now, if that doesn't draw you in and actually there's some wonderful quotes and things that occur before the book actually opens, but I mean when you get to this point, the prose is again it's phenomenal, so evocative, just draws you in. Is obviously your writing is intentional. And how do you feel as a reader and a writer about prose? I think like me, and I want to hear from you. Obviously, that the prose is really important to you in terms of the writers that you admire, and obviously it is intentional that you take great care to write brilliant prose. Can you talk about prose specifically in this book and the prose that you enjoy to read? You enjoy reading?
It's prose is so important to me, and I blame that on Guy Gabriel, okay? Specifically. Because I'm a huge fan, and I feel like if my prose is good, it's because I've read so much of TGK, and I have all his books. I reread his books every year. I actually reread before I write every chapter. And there's this one trick that I find is that could be helpful to other writers as well. If you have a favorite author whose prose that you really like, you don't have to worry about copying or mimicking them too much. You can't. You just cannot copy another writer. You can't. But rereading someone that you admire, whose prose that you really want to get up to that standard, really helps sets your standard before you write. So when I read other books that are, with prose that I don't quite like, or maybe with lesser prose than Guy Gavriel's, I feel like my prose goes down too, and I have to always reset it with, by rereading him again, and then it gets me to that point, like, okay, this is the style that I'm going for. This is the melody. I call it melody, because his prose is like music to me. It's like classical music to me. So so that helps also. It also helps you. It also inspires you to write the next chapter. I mean, try it if you are stuck when you're writing. Just pick up your favorite book with the favorite prose, reread for 15 or 30 minutes, and then your prose will be up there. And it's like covers. I've seen cover designers say this too. That if you want to know if your cover is up to standard, you put it next to a trad pop cover, a professional cover, and then you'll see the difference. So when I edit my book, I would reread someone phenomenal, and then I would read my book, and then I would see if my prose is close. I would just say close. I wouldn't say up there with Guy Gabriel. Okay, but yeah. So prose is so important to me when I read, also because, and I try not to read books with prose that goes against my style, because that sort of throws it off as well. So that is my struggle as a reader, prose wise. I pick a book for prose first, and also, this is gonna sound a little narcissistic, but no matter what stories I read, I'm always gonna love my own stories books, because it's mine. It goes exactly the way I want. My characters are exactly the way I want. It's always gonna be the best story for me. So apart from the prose, the wisdom and the techniques that they use in the book, I don't enjoy anything else when I read from another author. Well, not more than writing my own book. So I pick books prose wise. Again, I pick it from prose. I pick it from wisdom. I end up reading from authors older than me, or someone who's been through life more than I have, because they have so much wisdom to tell me. They have so many things I can learn from. And then I read from artists, like writers who are real artists. They do something really cool, and they think outside of the box. They're really creative. They really go. They break all the rules. I feel like those are so educational. I get excited when I see those techniques. So yeah, you can say that I read more from like the writer perspective, from the writer in me. I need those knowledge. I need those exposure to write better. I read to write better. You can say that, because I enjoy my story the most. I'm happy just writing my own story. I don't need to read anybody else, but I need exposure to good books to write my stories better. Yeah.
You know what?
Prose
That's
is
such
number
a
one.
that's such an amazing and fascinating take, that, and I completely concur with you. And it's funny you say that, because I find myself, honestly, I totally agree. I find myself honestly writing better when I've read books from my favorite authors who are exemplary when it comes to prose. The Jenny Wirtz, to me, no one writes a Jenny Wirtz. She's my favorite author. Her prose is on a level that I think most writers can only dream to aspire to. As is Guy Gavriel. I just finished the Fianna Tapestry recently. I haven't done my review yet, but again, just in that elite level in terms of prose. And I agree, them, the Bernard Cornwells. When I found myself recently craving, when I'm writing my books, I crave to read their books, to help, as you said, to almost like a benchmark, a standard as to if I am sounding anywhere close to, you'll never eclipse it, as you said. You might not reach the goal, or if you're sounding close, you will feel satisfied with your work. But that's an interesting contradiction to what a lot of authors say is that they can't even read other authors' works while they're writing because they don't want their prose to bleed into those authors. But yet, again, I agree with you in that. I feel that when you have authors that you look up to, that you put on a pedestal, that they're paragons, of in terms of what you would aspire to. I think that, like you, when I read their books, I try now purposefully with intent to read their books in and around the time I'm really writing the meat of my own books, and I feel that it makes me a better writer. And I don't think it's a detraction at all. So it's interesting that you're the same, and I think that's wonderful. But I also agree with you, and maybe this is a hot take that you said, yeah, well, but my books are what I enjoy writing and reading the most. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. It's not. I don't think that's being arrogant or vain or anything. I think that's how authors should feel. I don't know how. I don't know. I've never. And you've brought up a fascinating question that I may perhaps pose in the future in interviews. And I think you're so important that how other authors feel, or whether they would admit that their favorite books to read and write are their own. And I don't know how they feel, but that's you've brought up a really really fascinating question that I think is going to resonate and stick with me now forever. In that, how do authors like us actually feel about their own work? Is their own work their favorite work? Is that just a natural thing? And is that something that is okay? I think it is, but and I never thought about that.
I'm someone who always know what I want to the T. Like, I can tell you, like, this is funny because I was talking to my girlfriend about, guys, and I was telling her, oh, I'm looking for a guy who's like this, and that he's gotta do this, not in terms of looks or physical or how much money, but I need a guy who is always gonna be home with me, who doesn't need his own personal time, but I'm also willing to give all my own personal time as well. So but while I was listing that, my friend was like, do you realize that most people don't know what they want, and you do? You do to the T. That's the same way with my books. I know to the comma placement how the book I want to read. I write like an artist. When an artist has an image in her mind so clear, and she's drawing it from that image onto paper, trying to match it, that image in her mind on paper. That's what I do with book writing. I know exactly what I want, and I can tell. That's why I say I don't need a better reader at all. I'm not writing for anyone. Maybe it's not as good, but it's perfect for me because I know what that image is. I can look at my own writing against that image in my mind, and if it matches, that is the perfect book already for me. And just saying for me, not for the world. But and so it's easy. I can say with confidence when I reach that point, I don't stop editing until the book reaches the point where it matches what I have in mind exactly. So I can say 100% that I love my book the most because of that. I'm not saying my book is the best in the world for everybody. I'm saying this is the best book for me because I wrote it. I control everything. I control even where I place my commas, the punctuations, the new paragraph. That I have such a hard time finding the right editors because of that. Because I hate it. I mean, you change one thing, and I'm gonna go like, no, but this is how it has to be. And sometimes that's grammatically incorrect. But yeah, I found an editor who gets me and who's on the same line as me. So that problem is solved. But before that, it was such a big struggle. Yeah, but that's the reason why I always say that with pride. This is the best. People ask all the time on Twitter. I mean, whose book are you gonna take if you're stuck on an island? I said my own book. Whose else? Or maybe a blank sheet of paper and a pen that doesn't run out, and then I'll just write my own book. I don't need someone else's stories. Yeah. So I feel like if I understand that some writers don't have that clear an idea yet, and they're still discovering it, and sometimes maybe they release before they reach that point, and so they never feel like that like 100% with the or some might be writing to for the public to make it a bestseller overall, not specifically for themselves like me, and that's why I think that's why the lack of confidence in one's own book might come from. It's goal related actually. It's not wrong. It doesn't mean they're less of a writer. It's just my goal is to write the book that's perfect for me, and then maybe share with other people. And some other writer's goal might be just to write a bestseller, even though they have to sacrifice some of their preferences, because that's their goal. They're both fine goals, but yeah, for me, that's why I say it. I love my book the most because I wrote it.
And I love that. I love that confidence, and I love that analogy of being on a desert island. And which book would you most prefer? It's your own, or if not your own, then to be able to write your own book in the time you have on the desert island. And that's I just think that is just such a marvelous appreciation and self-love and love of and respect for your own writing, which I think sometimes we as authors don't do enough of. I think by nature most of us are fairly humble, and yet we struggle with imposter syndrome, obviously, in terms of is our writing good enough, and then we compare ourselves to other authors. But I love that concept of the self-love, of loving your work, and I think at our core, most of us, especially indies, we're writing the book because that's the book we want to write, and that there's this dichotomy that we also want to sell, and we also want to have our books reach a large audience and sell. But yet really why we're writing them, or we're writing the way we write, is because we're writing for us. And that's also one of the reasons why we're indies, because we know that if we were traditionally published, there would be a certain amount of that creative freedom that would be curtailed by the publisher, because the publisher's goal is obviously to sell as many copies as possible, and they have their own metrics and their own views as to how to do that, and that includes whether that's chopping your work, whether that's removing certain lines or sentences or paragraphs, or chapters that they feel don't work for them, or perhaps don't work to the market. So I think it's really important what you said, Sienna, and a great reminder for all of us, especially we indies, who I believe write because we want to write these books for ourselves first, but then we want to share them. I think that's a really important message that you've given, and thank you for that reminder. That I think that's somewhat of the essence that I think is inside all of we indie authors. However, sometimes we need to be reminded of that. So that's an important reminder.
I do too. Sometimes I say these things because I need that reminder as well. We can always get, thrown off our path. But that's also one advice that I give as someone who has been writing for 30 years. And I've actually reached the peak of my writing career before Obsidian, because I was a fanfic writer for 7-10 years. And my fan fiction, which was like a 300K trilogy, it was huge, got so popular it was translated into 7 languages and shared by fans around the world. And 300K book fan translated it's something, and it's hard to beat with Obsidian. I feel like I will never reach that again. But as someone who's been through that, who reached that, I feel like the most important thing that helped me get there was having written for me for 20 years in the closet, completely in the closet. No one has ever seen those writing. That was me, like I said, in the boarding school. We didn't have internet back then to share anything. Nobody has seen it, and that was an experience of writing for you, loving this book for you. Everything is you, and then once you've done that, you grow this love for your book so much that it's hard to derail you afterwards. So I tell all new writers this when they ask for advice. It's like, what's the best advice you would give a new writer? I'd say write for you. At least one book. If you can't do years of it, at least write one book and tell yourself you're never going to publish this, and see how you write. See how you write that book. If you say to yourself, I'm never going to let anyone read this. No one is going to judge me on this book, only me. And I feel like that's how your own style, your own voice develops. People say all the time that writers need to develop your own unique voice. They need to find it. You're not going to find it. It's hard for you to find it if you keep writing and feeling like you have to meet other people's standard all the time. And it really helps to, even if you've been writing for, 15, 20 years, but if you have never written a book for you, I'd say try that for one book. Just take a year off or something, or write a novella, or, and feel that satisfaction of having a book that is written for you, by you, exactly the way that you would read it if nobody ever writes it. And then use that feeling afterward. This is what I do when I write. I would read a chapter, and whenever there are voices from outside telling me, maybe you shouldn't do this, maybe you shouldn't write a sentence like that, I would ask myself, if I never published this chapter, what would I do? And the answer is always clear. And you will find your voice back. You'll be writing your style, and I feel like that's the most important thing for a writer to have in this age of AI. That's about to replace us as well. If you are not unique by this point, if your voice is not irreplaceable, there is that big risk for you. We can't do with standard stuff anymore. You gotta stand out. You gotta be able to write in the way that AI cannot copy you, and that's gonna come from finding your own voice. And it really helps.
Oh, wow, Sienna, that is brilliant. That is wonderful, sage advice. Again, thank you for giving that to all of our viewers and to me, specifically as a fellow writer, that you're really motivating me and reminding me again why I write, and a path that I think is a path to success, personal success and gratification for all of us. So thank you for that. I want to quickly put up some comments. Yeah, John Rose and set on fire. He notes, I read 1,000 earlier drafts and I was mesmerized by all of them. When I saw this final draft, at the point I didn't think it could get any better, she dropped this, and I was like, wow. So high praise, from Tied In. Emmy concurs. She says, yeah. Jay Bird puts up the quick comment again about GGK. And it's funny, Sienna, when I met Jay Bird for the first time yesterday at the book signing, we were talking about GGK because, again, his brilliance. Again, with the GGK, he came up for a conversation yesterday. Has there ever been more beautiful prose written in the fantasy genre? I would agree. He's definitely up there with the best in terms of prose that I've personally read. So, Jenny Wirtz it will always be my number one, but GGK is certainly in my top, 2 to 3.
Whose other prose that this is strange because he's the complete opposite of Guy Gabriel Kay. but he's also written a book that I reread as many times before I write some of the scenes. Um, and that's Richard K. Morgan,
Okay.
especially for, and he's a sci-fi writer mostly, but and I admit I can't get into sci-fi. I just hate technology in book. That's it. I have nothing against sci-fi. I just hate technology. I need something old. But he wrote this book, this series called A Land Fit for Heroes, which is fantasy. It sets fire to fantasy, and this is what Joe Abercrombie wrote a review about it, and he was like, yeah, he sets fire to fantasy and then piss on it to put it out. But if you like prose, his prose is brutally beautiful. It's very descriptive in a really harsh way. That is perfect for some scenes. I really recommend it, and that is one of I wouldn't call him an underrated writer because he's got his series made into Netflix films, but that series is underrated.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant. I've been rereading that series as many times as some of my Guy Gabriel K. Yeah, so prose wise, I do recommend Richard K. Morgan. His wisdom in there is just also phenomenon. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I've only read The Steel Remains. I remember I was very drawn to that, and I don't know why. It's one of those things I picked up years ago, but that I never finished. And I really have to get back, reread the first book, and continue the series. There's so many, how the TBRs. There's so many books, but I specifically remember being captivated by prose. And why I didn't continue, I'm not sure. I think because I'd fallen off for a while with the fantasy and getting into my own writing. But that's one of the ones I need to return to and finish. The series Dark. A lot of magic, a lot of creatures. I remember, a very flawed and interesting main hero. Who had a lot of issues, and
his command over language is just amazing. I mean, his metaphors are the best. I haven't seen better metaphors than Richard K. Morgan's. To be honest, and they're unique. They're very unique. They're very blunt. But it hits you pretty hard. I love his writing. Yeah, so that's another favorite of mine.
Yeah, I definitely have to get back to that. So, and that kind of leads into that question that I had bookmarked earlier, because I know and again, I want to respect your time. I know we spent an hour and a half, but I do want to get back to this question quickly that Rosiku put up, asking about the underrated writers in fantasy that you recommend. You already mentioned Rich K. Morgan, perhaps, as you said, he's not underrated. However, certainly, I don't think he gets talked about much in our circles in this corner that I've seen the book too. But he wrote that series a while ago. But still, as you say, he's a sci-fi writer as well. But that original series that you were talking about was started back in the early 2000s, I believe. So So can you name some other writers that you feel are underrated that you would recommend?
It's still definitely Guy Gabriel K, because I feel like so many people have never read his book at all, and I feel like he's the best writer in the universe for me. So I tell people to read his books before they read mine. Really, I've been telling my readers, like, can you go read The Lions of Orasan first, then you can read Obsidian later. You come back anytime, but please go read Guy Gabriel K and then come fangirl with me. So I feel like that's a shame. He should be a lot more famous than I guess, but I'm always drawn to writers like this, though. I mean, with a very specific style that's not modern or not what the world at large expect. But those are the two that I can think of. I mean, Richard K. Morgan's his fantasy series, and all of Guy Gabriel K. I am also a fan of Connie Golden. Um, he writes historical fiction. I wrote the Khan series, obviously, and I wrote a few more. I love his prose as well. Yeah, so Bernard Cornwell. I'm into historical stuff too. Yeah, and I like that kind of descriptive old style prose a lot. So yeah, and I feel like all those writers who are still writing that kind of style are very underrated nowadays, because I have complaints of my own about newer books being written like scripts, like TV scripts. Like you can probably make it into a movie script without changing much, because it's just dialogues and action tags, and I need a lot of descriptions and metaphors and um, all those word, art
Yeah.
in writing. Otherwise, I'm a movie fan before a reader.
Yeah.
So I just watch movie. If books can't give me that, I'll just watch movies.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. I think I lament a lot about, while I've read brilliant books that are written, in a more modern style, and perhaps, they also talk about accessible prose. I crave and I love, and my favorite books are definitely where the language is lush, where the all of the descriptions are lush, where it is, and where the style is. I know for some people they feel it's archaic now, but much more. For me to get into a book that is fantasy, quote unquote fantasy, again, the gateway is a prose, but I need that more lyrical, evocative, and some would say more archaic and old style prose. That those are the books like yours that really capture me. That I will keep. That I will continue to remember, and then I will, as you said, will you made the excellent. I'll continue to reread. Do you know what I mean? Like I've reread this several times. I've
Oh,
Bernard Cornwell, Janie Wirt's books, Guy Gavriel Kay's. These books are built for rereads, and
yeah.
rereads also means resonating, and books that you can remember, even potentially paragraphs from these books that and to me that is what reading is all about. Yes, we all need those. Jenny Wirth says it best. We all need those popcorn reads sometimes, where it's just pure entertainment. Like you say with
Yeah.
movies, it's great. It's entertainment for the minute. It takes you away from everything, and then oftentimes it's forgotten about afterwards. But for the moment, and it's important to live in the moment too, not just the past or the future. It's important to live in the moment. But the books that I remember that resonates with me, that stay with me, that I talk about frequently as my favorite books are books such as yours, and books from those authors that I mentioned, and as you mentioned, the Guy Gavriel Case, etc., the Jenny Words, the Stephen Ericksons, the you name your author, right? So, but
I'm
Sienna, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
no, oh no. I'm just gonna add that as a reader, I realized after decades of reading that the books that stay with me the most are the ones where you can know the plot to heart and you still want to read it again, because it's way more than thought. It's the kind of book that you cannot spoil. That's what I aspire to. That's the kind of book I want to write before I die. Something that I can tell you the plot of the entire book tomorrow, and then I want people to say, "But I need to read it." I feel like that's the absolute best book that you can write. Something that you can tell people the plot. You can say, "Steal my plot, go write a book with the exact same characters and plot," and it just won't be the same if it wasn't written by say Guy Gabriel Kay. And I want to be the writer of that kind of book where it's irreplaceable. Where I can say, "Go ahead and steal my plot." It's never, it should not be the same, and readers should still want to read my version, and not because of that, or I can spoil the plot, like I said, spoil it to the last book, and then readers have to be able to write to that level where reader will say, "I don't care if I know who dies, I want to read how they die. That is the point of reading, isn't it? You have to write well to the point where spoilers don't matter anymore. Yeah, and that's what I aspire to read, because I've read authors like these that I can, because I know the plot already. Why am I still reading Guy Gavrier every year? And I want to be that kind of writer that makes reader want to go back and reread every year. So yeah, I love
Yeah,
those books.
well, Sienna, I think you've succeeded. I think you are succeeding. I have every confidence that you will continue to succeed at that. I know this is one of those books for me. Kudos and congratulations to you on that. I absolutely cannot wait for book two, and everything else that you're going to write. You're a must-buy author. I will read everything that you write. For those that have joined us, I do want to say thank you so much. You're the reason why this long form content succeeds. And I hope you had a wonderful, almost an hour and 45 minutes listening to the brilliant Sienna and her insights and what she feels about, how she feels about writing. And I think she's also been a huge, for those of you, especially those writers out there, aspiring writers, is holding up the little cutie there. I think she's been a huge inspiration and reminder for all of us about why we do what we do, why it's important, and staying true to ourselves. That was another thing that I definitely took out of listening to Sienna. I've learned so much from her in this short time and I could talk to her for hours. I think, just learning so much about why it's important to write and why it's important to stay true to yourself. And those are also some lessons that I will take from this conversation that will resonate with me forever. So, Sienna, I want to respect your time. I know it's getting late there. Thank you so much for speaking to us. But before we sign off, although, again, all the links are in descriptions, can you please tell us where to follow you on social media? The links are in the description, yes, but where to buy your books, etc., and anything else you'd like to say about all that.
I'm on almost all of the social media platform. I'm most active on Twitter. I have a author website that will link you to anything you need, also with descriptions and information about the Discord channel if you would like to join some of the fans. If you or join us for a group reading. We have group reads on the channel for both book one and about to open that for book two when it releases, and the chapters are organized. The chapters are sorted out, thanks to Titan. He helps with that. So all the comments you find, you can jump in anytime and you'll see the comments for each chapter separately from other people. So that's fun to talk to. I'm always lurking and answering questions and discussing the book, and also all the news and updates will be there. But all this can be found on my website, siennafrost.com. I have an Instagram account as well. It's also under Sienna Frost, without an O, because that name has been taken. Also for Twitter. I'm not active on Facebook. I can't handle that many, but I have an account, but I'm not active. So my books are on Amazon at the moment. It's on Kindle Unlimited, so it's exclusive. So you can only find it on Amazon at the moment. That may change for book two or for future books. I'm not sure, but I will announce it on my newsletter if that happens. If you'd like to join, just go to siennafrost.com. You'll see some amazing fan art that fans do as well. I'm hoping that we will get fan fiction soon. I'm very open to that. I keep telling people I don't need the Hugo, I need fanfics. So that's where you can find me, mostly Twitter and Discord channel. That's the way I frequent these days.
Well, That's fantastic. And that sounds like a really lively, active, fun place to be. Sienna's Discord channel. So I encourage everyone, fans of her work, to check that out. Just concluding comment here from Jaybird. Thank you both very much. I enjoyed the interview. I'm looking forward to reading the first book in the Obsidian series. Thanks so much, Jaybird, again, for coming by. It was great to meet you yesterday at the book signing, and you're going to love, you're absolutely going to, trust me, I know your taste, you're going to love Obsidian Awakening. So listen, for everyone, for me, it's Peel Stewart, John King Saga 7847. That's a YouTube channel. You can find me, like Sienna, on Twitter. X is where I lurk the most. Also on YouTube, my channel, and beside my wonderful colleague Taylor from 80 Pages for Page Chewing, where we also do interviews of creatives, wonderful creatives in the community like Sienna. And before we go blog, shout out to the wonderful Beth Tabler, and before we go, our fitness leader, before we go blog, crew, you can see my reviews there as well. There's a review of Obsidian, and of course you can find my review of Obsidian on Goodreads. Fabulous book, again, one of my top 25 indie books of all time, and I don't doubt that all of Sienna's books will continue to make their way into my favorite indie fantasy books. So it has been wonderful to talk to you, Sienna. Thank you so much again for coming by. I so appreciate it. Thank you. This has been wonderful. Again, we could chat for hours, but I want to respect your time. So we will sign it off there. Once again, everyone, thanks for stopping by in the comments in the chat. Everybody that stopped by, thank you so much. You're what makes this type of content amazing. And for all of you who are going to watch the replay later that weren't able to see the live, thank you so much for watching in the future. And thanks, Emmy. Thank you for hosting this wonderful conversation for us all. Obviously made by my fabulous guest. I can only do so much. It is the wonderful guests that make this content, again, what it is. So thanks again, everyone. We'll be signing off. And again, Obsidian, go out and get this book. You will not be disappointed. Brilliant, epic, dark, fantasy, Middle Eastern inspired. That is amazing. Okay, everyone, we will talk to you soon. Take care and have a good night, evening, wherever you are.
Thank you so much for coming, everyone. ขอบคุณค่ะ